The Democrats' debate in Ohio's gerrymandered map is good for a few more years. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Andy Chow, State House reporter for Ohio Public Radio. Jeremy Pelzer, State House reporter for Cleveland.com. Herb Asher, political scientist. And Marianne Sharkey, public affairs consultant. America and Ohioans got their first real look at most of the Democrats running for president this week. Two debates on NBC featured 20 candidates, 10 on the first night, 10 on the second night. Here are some of the highlights.
Who is this economy really working for? It's doing great for a thinner and thinner slice at the top.
I live in a low-income black and brown community. I see every single day that this economy is not working for average Americans.
And at a time when we have 3 people in this country owning more wealth than the bottom half of America, while 500,000 people are sleeping out on the streets today, we think it is time for change, real change.
It's a mess, and we're hurting. And I could walk you through all of the things that we have done as a community, all of the steps that we took from bias training to de-escalation, but it didn't save the life of Eric Logan.
Mayor Buttigieg there talking about a recent police shooting in his city. The key moment of the two nights came in session 2, when Kamala Harris challenged Joe Biden on his position on busing in the 1970s.
Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No,
do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a
oppose...
failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA.
So, feisty in round 2. Herb, what's your biggest takeaway from both sessions?
I thought probably the 2 candidates who were most advantaged were obviously Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren. I mean, and I think they demonstrated that they have presence, they're knowledgeable, they think quickly on their feet and all of that. Obviously, it was not Joe Biden's best moment, but and I think he can be more critical of him, how he responded to her attack. And he should have said, look, I did oppose busing, but look, the world has changed, I've changed. This is back in the 1970s. Most people opposed busing. He can't quite say it that way, but he actually should have turned and said, but look, you are the epitome of the American dream. And he should have just praised her up and down and said, you are an inspiration. And instead, he got a little too defensive, and so that made it easier for her to keep on pushing on that topic.
Is he out of practice, or is it just
I think he's a little out of practice, because let's face it, it's been a long time since he's had a debate, and he's been avoiding all the other candidates and appearances. And you need to do some warm-up pitches before you can go out there. Yeah. So I think he was definitely not at his finest. Plus, he should have seen those questions coming. Anybody knew that they were coming towards him. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily the busing. And by the way, I think he could lean into that busing issue because it has proven to be a failed experiment. Yeah. And a lot of people still oppose it.
Jeremy.
Well, I think he was actually expecting an attack to come from from Bernie Sanders. I don't think he was I think he was expecting the issue to come up. I don't think he was expecting the issue to come up from Kamala Harris, who made a different argument, which is, this affects me. I was one of those little girls, and I don't think he had a response prepared for that.
And it's tougher to respond to a woman who's African-American on that issue.
Who's personally affected by it.
It would be easier to respond to Bernie Sanders or somebody else. Any other candidates? I mean, there were so many. There were 20. Cory Booker sort of rose above the fray a little bit. Elizabeth Warren did fine, as Herb mentioned. Julian Castro did fine, rose above the noise a bit.
Yeah, and I think you have these certain personalities. Do you come off natural? Do you come off poised and able to speak to a large group of people in front of a camera to be able to deliver your message? Or do you come off unnatural and do you look sort of uncomfortable? And I think those people you just mentioned are people who were able to convey their message. And the big thing here is they want to get their sound bites in, they want to get their highlights in these news programs, and then they want to be able to send that out to donors to see if they can keep this train going.
Joe Biden might be the best candidate for the Democrats in the general election, running as the anti-Trump candidate. What do I mean by that? Joe Biden, a person of ethics, courage, morality, whose theme is to bring us together, running against Donald Trump, who's just the opposite. But can Joe Biden get through the Democratic selection process?
Do Democrats want to come together? I don't get the feeling that's the case right now.
Well, I think Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders they're controlling the debate. I mean, their issues as progressives or Bernie as an out-and-out socialist is really pushing Biden and other mainstream candidates all the way to the left.
Well, you have a process, too, that is very much influenced by which states choose delegates first. So Iowa, it's a caucus state.
Right.
That benefits those candidates who can get the rank and file activists. California has now moved up, and so California is Kamala Harris's something. South Carolina is very early. South Carolina, the Democratic constituency is largely black. I think actually some of Kamala Harris's efforts there were to actually weaken Joe Biden in South Carolina because Biden's doing very well among black voters. And I mean, you get to a process here that is really convoluted.
How about Ohioans? How do they view this debate? They voted for Trump by 8 points in 2016.
I think they know Tim Ryan's not going to be a presidential candidate.
Well, let's get to Tim Ryan. Congressman Tim Ryan of Youngstown was in the first debate. He had good moments and not so good moments. This was one of his better ones.
We have got to change the center of gravity of the Democratic Party from being coastal and elitist and Ivy League, which is the perception, to somebody from the forgotten communities that have been left behind for the last 30 years, to get those workers back on our side.
So, Democratic strategy, Andy, but not really a message about what I'm going to do.
Well, it's also mimicking a lot of rhetoric from Republicans that we've heard in Ohio, this coastal elites, bringing it to the Midwest. So maybe that's what he's trying to do is bring the Democratic Party closer to Midwestern ideals. But yeah, Tim Ryan didn't get much screen time and wasn't able to deliver some big blows I think that he needed.
If you look at the past two elections, what it's usually come down to when you have a lot of people running is you have the front runner, in which case it's indisputably Joe Biden, even after this debate. Then you have a quote-unquote anti-candidate, like the anti-Biden and anti-Trump and anti-Romney. And then you have a couple of hangers-on who are waiting to make their move because they're waiting for a state to come up or they're just not ready to concede yet. And right now, this was kind of an audition to be who is the anti-Biden. I don't think Tim Ryan is really in that conversation.
And so Biden's got a lot of things going for him. He is still the front runner, and there's more than 20 people running. So if you've got all these people fighting to be the anti-Biden, and you're the only one Biden, then you might be able to skate through if you have everybody fighting for those other votes.
Tim Ryan, I was a wash. It was a wash. He did okay in some things. He flubbed on the Taliban Al Qaeda thing, which
yes, right,
whatever.
Right,
he meant. We knew what he meant. He just flubbed the answer.
Yes.
He was the butt of jokes on the Late Show.
Well, I mean, I think we're into the culling the herd with the first debate, and Tim Ryan is probably going to be called for the herd.
Trivia question.
Yeah.
Who are the four who did not make the debate?
Well, Governor of Montana.
Steve Bullock from Montana.
The Congressman from Massachusetts, Seth Moulton, I believe. And then there was a guy just jumped in last week, had 5 people at his announcement, I think, or his first rally. Couldn't tell you. It's just, well, then what about that? There's too many. Why should they have done a better job of thinning the herd, as you said, before this debate?
Well, I mean, you still don't see, I mean, with all due respect to Joe Biden, you still don't see anybody with the kind of talent that Obama had or that Bill Clinton had. No one is really dominating at this point.
Kamala Harris showed signs of it last night.
Yeah, she did show signs of it.
Remember, they set up criteria for candidates to participate in the debate, and those were pretty easy criteria to meet. So then the question becomes, do you set up more difficult criteria, and who sets them up? Does the Democratic National Committee set them up? And then do people start screaming, oh my God, they're trying to dominate the process, bosses
Absolutely.
once again and all
So
that.
they had to keep it broad just to satisfy all
It's
the
a
critics.
hangover from 2016 when you had the Bernie Hillary.
Which, probably isn't a bad thing. The first couple of debates, hear from everybody, then we can decide who to, or the Democrats can decide, and media can decide who to exclude next time. It came close to getting involved in setting rules for congressional redistricting, but in the end, the U.S. Supreme Court again said gerrymandering fixes belong to politicians and ultimately to voters. The 5-4 decision said courts should not decide the issue even if excessive partisanship leads to results that seem unjust. The ruling means Ohio's congressional map will remain in place through the 2020 elections. After then, Ohio will use its new system designed to limit partisan gerrymandering to draw districts for 2022. Jeremy Pelzer, I guess it's not a huge surprise. I think advocates for reform were hoping the court would finally step in, but they've been pretty consistent. This is a partisan issue. Partisan politicians should decide it.
It was a 5-4 decision, and most of the Democratic responses are, if only we had Merrick Garland on the court. Yeah. And to be specific, this ruling did not specifically apply to Ohio. It's just widely assumed that it's going to apply to Ohio because they ruled in a couple of other states, and there's no reason they would rule differently in Ohio. So it looks extremely likely that we're going to have the existing map in place next year.
Yeah, it was a close call. I mean, had the court decided differently, then we would have seen new maps drawn up for the 2020 election. A lot of Democrats are saying that could have played a huge role in shifting the balance of the House. And at this point, like Jeremy said, it seems like because of these decisions in North Carolina and Maryland that we're not going to see that. From what we heard from a lot of Republican leaders in Ohio is what you were saying, is that that they think that judges and the court should not be making these types of decisions. It's been something that they've been fighting on all these other issues lately. So Republicans are saying this is a big win when it comes to who should be making these big decisions.
Herb, you fought a lot of these fights in the past.
Yeah. What's worrisome about the court's decision is they basically said, we don't have the ability to make these kinds of judgments. And I understand why they don't want to get into the political thicket of apportionment, but I could define a system here in Ohio that's even worse than we currently have, that on the face of it, everybody would say, this is outrageous and voters' preferences are being denied. And if the court kept on saying, well, sorry, we don't have the ability to make those kinds of judgments. So what the court is saying is there's no such thing as an unconstitutional extreme gerrymandering. There's extreme gerrymandering, partisan, and so therefore it is left to the states. But this is almost an open invitation for creative people in each of the states now to say, and Democrats and Republicans, well, the sky's the limit in terms of the court.
Well, they have the ability to make a decision on a presidential election.
Yeah.
They have the ability to make a decision on everything else, but this, they obviously wanted to punt on it.
Yeah.
And they have been punting for decades, as Herb knows.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gone back and forth, they've tiptoed up. Justice Kennedy almost gave them the fifth vote to really come down on strong gerrymandering or opposition to strong gerrymandering. But as we know, Ohio's different. We passed a constitutional amendment.
Will that work? It doesn't guarantee, doesn't force bipartisanship, the issue we passed in 2018, but it encourages it, and the ultimate penalty is if you can't come up with a map that's bipartisan, you have to redo it again in 4 years, not 10. Do we expect a greatly different map in 2022 than we have in 2020?
Well, for one thing, we're going to have very likely one fewer congressional seat.
Yes.
So that's off the bat, it's going to be different. My prediction is probably that it'll be Tim Ryan's seat. You'll see Youngstown, that kind of, because of the population loss and because of the Trump's gains there. But in terms of what the map will look like, it's going to with the caveat that every map is gerrymandered. Yeah. Every single map is politically influenced. You're never going to have an objective map. But with that said, you're going to have probably a less ridiculously gerrymandered map.
So you think you'll see you predict some progress? You think you'll do
some progress? Emphasis on the some.
The advocates who were in the thick of it, fighting for this reform, I think they were saying that you could see a swing of 1 or 2 more districts go to the Democrats that are currently with the Republicans. But again, there's going to be a whole new map.
A very reasonable outcome, given the party strength in Ohio, is for the 15 to be either 8-7 Republican or 9-6 Republican. And the only reason I give the Republicans the advantage is that their votes are actually spread out more strategically in Ohio, while the Democratic vote tends to be concentrated in too many urban areas. But the Democrats should at least pick up one seat.
Right. They've been very creative, as you know, Herb.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, they went from 10 to 8, Democrats, Republicans, to where we are today. And that was just as 2010. So we had 10 days.
And in 2018, 56% of Ohioans voted for a Republican in the congressional.
So it did definitely lean red.
Correct.
Anyway, well, we'll see. 4 years to go, 3.5 to go. While lawmakers wrap up final negotiations on the state budget, they cleaned up a little the so-called Clean Energy Bill, otherwise known as the Nuclear Plant Bailout Bill, otherwise known as the Nuclear and Coal Plant Bailout Bill. This is the thing you keep seeing TV ads about. This week, the Senate revised its version of the measure, keeping the subsidies for the 2 nuke plants and the 2 coal plants, but restoring watered-down efficiency and renewable energy standards. A House version completely got rid of those standards. Andy Chow, where do we stand on this right now? Will we have some renewable standards in the final bill, do you think?
Oh, it still remains to be seen. From what we've seen, the Senate is the main body that's fighting to keep renewables around, albeit, you know, much more watered down standards, taking it from 12.5% renewable energy to 8.5% in 2025. But I mean, the Senate's the body that actually restored it. The House wanted to get rid of the renewables altogether. It's this big fight between the House and the Senate. Both are talking about this idea of subsidizing nuclear to help save those jobs, to help save those plants. But the House is saying we can't subsidize nuclear without getting rid of the renewable and efficiency standards, because that will just add more money to a person's electric bill. So
To try to keep the cost at least the same as it is now.
That's right.
I mean, this bill has created some really strange bedfellows.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you have the oil and gas industry and the environmentalists on the same side. And on the other hand, you have Mike DeWine, local people living around these plants, and of course, First Energy Solutions itself. So it's kind of a weird fault lines. But the thing is, this isn't being done just in isolation. This is direct. The talks over these are being directly coordinated in consultation with the budget. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to work out the state budget without working at HB6 and vice versa, because they're all wrapped up together.
They need to separate them. I mean, really, HB6 should be set aside, get the budget done. That's their number one responsibility. And I don't know why, other than they're using the budget as a weapon to try to get their way on HB6. At least Speaker Householder seems to be doing that.
Doesn't First Energy say we have a deadline at the end of June because of our bankruptcy proceedings?
Well, First Energy Solutions needs to make a decision if they want to refuel the Davis-Besse plant. It's a process that would happen later this year, but it's a multi-million-dollar thing.
So they say they need it by February, and they need 8 months to do it. Okay. Now, when I asked them earlier this week, hey, what happens if you don't get it done by June 30th? They said no comment.
Yeah. You know, what's sad is that if you look broadly at the national level, the future of energy is actually renewables and natural gas, and that's replacing coal. Mm-hmm. And obviously atomic is on the way out, except we'll preserve these plants for a few more years. And here's Ohio taking a step backwards on renewables in the name of saving the taxpayers some money, but in fact, it puts us further behind when other states are really moving forward on wind energy, solar energy, and there's real manufacturing and production to be done there.
One of those states is Georgia. It was profiled on NPR this week. It's booming. Dalton, Georgia, the old carpet manufacturing hub, has got this great solar plant.
Yeah.
They have no mandates. They have no renewable energy mandates at the state. It's just happening. So do we need the mandates?
Well, I think in Ohio, the mindset is so much what? Coal, traditional energy sources.
Well, it's also because of the lobbyists that they have. I mean, it's the power of the lobbyists that they have here. They control this legislature, and they have controlled it for decades. First Energy has always had a battalion of lobbyists running around. The coal industry has another battalion of lobbyists.
There's all sorts of things going on here too. Where's the most wind happening in Ohio? Is it sunnier in Georgia than it is in Ohio? And then we have the fuel storage thing, which hasn't been able to keep up with renewable energy at this point.
Yeah. Plain Dealer reported this week First Energy refused to open its financial records prior to this vote. Should Ohio lawmakers authorize $150 million a year if we can't see the books to see if they really need it?
I mean, the whole rationale for these things is that they're unprofitable, and that's what First Energy Solutions says. Now, there are signs, indirect signs, that they're not profitable. But when I asked First Energy Solutions, well, exactly how unprofitable are they? They said they can't say because they're in ongoing bankruptcy negotiations. And so lawmakers and the public don't know exactly how profitable or unprofitable these plants are.
Yeah, we're looking at a plan that would give these 2 plants $150 million. And the lawmakers were even asking, will this help? Is this what you need? And they're sort of cagey about that. And so the question is, where did this $150 million, where did that line even come from?
That's outrageous, completely outrageous. There's no excuse that they wouldn't give them the figures and the numbers to back up what they're asking the Ohio General Assembly to do to all of the ratepayers of Ohio.
Well, I'll tell you where the number came from. And what they did is they took the average cost of how much it takes to, the average price for nuclear energy, and they subtracted the average price for a single unit nuclear reactor, and they got $9 a megawatt hour. And then you multiply it by how much power they generate, and that's your $150 million.
So they made it.
So it's all. It led to this weird. It led to this weird situation in the Senate committee where you had one expert going out saying they're profitable, and then another expert come up saying they're not profitable, and you're just arguing about it.
One would hope, and I think Marianne is saying this, that the legislature, as representatives of the people, would simply say, "Of course you're giving us this information.
Right.
We need it. It's our responsibility. And if you don't, goodbye."
There we go. So something else as complicated. We have yet another plan to fix Ohio's school funding system. This one is a new version of the bipartisan bill announced in March. This plan is not part of the state budget, so lawmakers do have more time to work on it. It still bases funding on the actual needs of students and their schools. After facing criticism, the first plan unfairly helped wealthy districts. This plan gives more money to poor urban and rural districts, and to lessen the shock to the state budget, it would be phased in over 6 years and not 4.
We believe that when the plan is adopted, it will give Ohio a very comprehensive, well-functioning, fair, stable, consistent, justifiable, and transparent plan that will help schools do their main job, which is to educate our children for the present and the future.
We still don't know how much it will cost, and individual districts don't know yet how much they would get or lose under this new plan. Marianne Sharkey, you have worked on this plan with the representatives involved.
Right.
Is this the plan to fix school funding?
Well, we certainly believe it's a big step towards being the plan. I mean, no one understands the current plan. This plan was, we had treasurers and superintendents across the state of Ohio meet in committees for more than a year. These committee chairs took the information, they divided it up. It wasn't just the formula, it was also transportation, it was also wiring all the schools, it was also taking care of vocational education.
The so-called actual cost
There are many,
of educating kids.
And they came down with a number that they believe is the right number to educate every child in Ohio. That's a basic number. That does not include numbers such as special education or special needs, but they came with a formula that I think is very understandable. But as we know, when the printouts come out, and that always happens,
is that why?
Which every school, that's why it was delayed. That's why it was delayed
Yeah.
when the printouts came out, and every district starts to look at
Well, can you give
what
us
they're
a hint?
going to get.
Yeah. Can you give us a hint on how much it will cost? Because they wouldn't even say that.
No, I can't not.
Okay.
Go on.
We'll cut you some slack.
I'm only consulting for
That's
them.
right. You're not in charge. Lawmakers eager to take this challenge up? They think this might be the fix?
You know, if you talk to Speaker Householder, he says that this is a big issue for him. This is a priority issue for him, just not right now. He wants to deal with the budget, and of course, we've got the energy issue and workers. But this is something that I think we're going to see a lot of after the budget, because you have it impacting everybody on all sorts of levels. You have these prominent districts that are growing in enrollment but don't have enough money to follow them. You have these poor rural districts. You have the urban districts. So there's all sorts of different elements to this.
So a lot has been made that 2/3 of the House has signed on as co-sponsors, but if you look at the list of co-sponsors, almost none of those people are supporters of Larry Householder, including Larry Householder himself, and they're not on it. And if you need that support, if you're going to get something passed.
You know, the Speaker has said, and I think quite eloquently, that he understands the problems of rural districts. And we, I think, in the major cities, forget about the fact that there are parts of Ohio for which the property base just cannot sustain a good public school system. And that has to, and so the fact that he's insisting upon this, I think, is very, very important.
All right, let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. And Marianne, we'll start with you.
Well, I think after watching the debates, I realized that Joe Biden stumbled, but I think he still remains the formidable frontrunner in this race.
Okay. Herb.
I think the winnowing process should start among Democrats, but I have the sense that before some people drop out, some more people may still get into the race. Heaven forbid.
We're up to 24, 25, depending on how you count. So next debates are in July, by the way. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think that even though the legislature is supposed to wrap up by this weekend, you're going to see a Sunday legislative you're going to see the legislature will be in session, and they'll extend the session by 2 more weeks.
Extending the budget process.
Correct.
Into the new fiscal year. Andy.
I think after seeing an energy bill that was this comprehensive look, changing all sorts of different policies, I think it's going to be whittled down to maybe just the nuclear issue, and then we see renewables, efficiency, oil, gas taken care of in another bill.
Interesting. I have a lot of sympathy for folks who have to moderate debates, and I thought the NBC folks did okay, but they had to cut the mics. They had the mics on too much during the debate. When a candidate goes over by 15 seconds, cut the mic. Then we can move on to the next person. It's just the talk over just is crazy. Anyway, that is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online. Continue the discussion on Facebook, on Twitter. Where it is, we're also on Instagram, but we're not on Herb's favorite of Snapchat. And if you want to relive this experience, or if you miss a show, every episode is on demand at wosu.org/COTR. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a great week and a great 4th of July.